The Radiomaster Zorro is a compact FPV radio which came to the market at a very similar time than the Jumper T Pro. Therefore, you find a lot of comparisons between the two of them. But you can't forget the very successful Jumper T Lite, which is also a compact FPV radio. Today I want to do a short review about the Radiomaster Zorro, introduce it to you, see what's good, what's bad, and most importantly, I have to admit that I was wrong about this radio, and I'm going to show you why. But first, let's give 30 seconds to my sponsor. Do you need a good service to print your circuit boards? I'm sure PCBWay will have the right solution for you at the best price. They don't only have different kinds of PCB like Flex PCB and Advanced PCB, but now you can get your circuit boards with higher TG at the same price. Imagine that. Remember, PCBWay can help you with many other services. Just go and visit their website and check all that they can do for you. And don't forget that your first order is for free. Radiomaster is very famous for the TX16S, which is this radio that I have here and my favorite radio. I use this every day as my mainly drive. But they came out with the Zorro version, which is supposed to be a small, portable, nimble radio that you can bring with you everywhere that you go. If you look at the Zorro and you compare it to other small radios in the market, like for example the T-Lite, you will see that the main difference is the size of the screen. The Zorro has a much bigger screen, and when I first saw the radio, I thought that this was kind of going out of that compact space, which is supposed to be the main area of competition for this radio. The Zorro comes in 3 different versions. You have the Express LRS version, which is the one that interests me the most, and probably the one that you should be looking at if you're thinking about the FPV hobby for the future. You also have the 4-in-1 multi-protocol version, which has an internal multi-protocol which allows you to connect to a huge amount of different protocols. And then you have the CC2500 version, which has a small number of protocols that you can connect, but it's mainly used for the FrSky protocol. The radio has also an external bay, which accepts the most common external models in the market. In my case, I think directly about Crossfire, and that makes this radio the Express LRS version with the Crossfire external model to become all-in-one, or the best radio that you can have, because you have those 2 protocols here, and basically it's gonna help you with the main protocols or the most important protocols in the market, on the FPV market right now. But then let's start with the review of this, and I'm going to start with the ergonomics of the radio. The first thing that I saw when I opened the radio and I took it in my hand is that the feeling is actually pretty nice. It's a little bit heavier than radios like the T-Lite or even the T Pro, and that gives it a little bit of a premium feeling when you're holding it. It sits very well in your hands. You have this shape here on the back that makes it different, makes it feels like it sits very correctly in your hands. The gimbals are Hall effect gimbals, and they feel pretty good, to be honest. The original gimbals are thin and very small, which is not good for me that I'm a thumber. So that was the first thing that I changed. And even these ones that I have here, they are a little bit small. I like bigger ones like the one that I have on my TX16S, because then I have more control. It's a better feeling. As I'm saying, the original one is like really skinny, and I don't have control over it when I'm using it with my thumbs. But that's not a problem of this particular radio. Almost every small radio has the same kind of skinny, small stick end, which you can change it because it's just an M3 stick end, and you choose from a huge variety outside there, and then it's just what you find to be comfortable. Continue with the gimbals. Radiomaster added a feature to the latest or more current generation of radios, which I find to be excellent. You can adapt the tension of the gimbals directly from the radio without having to open it. So in the case of the Zorro, you have on the back screws that you can access without opening, and you're going to control the tension of the gimbals so you find what's the best for you. This is pretty cool because even if you maybe use these tensioning screws once or twice in the lifespan of the radio, you don't want to be opening the radio, potentially breaking something, and it makes the whole solution much more elegant. That same system exists today on the TX16S, the new one, the MK2 or the Mark II, and it has come to the Radiomaster Zorro as well, and it's a very appreciated feature. Something else that I want to mention about the ergonomics here is this button, the scroll button that you have on the radio. It's a plastic button, but it feels pretty good, pretty solid. When you click on it, it doesn't feel plastic or that kind of cheap plastic that you can find in some other radios. Like the T Pro feels a little bit like empty when you click it. That's not happening on the Zorro, and that's something that is a plus for this radio. Once that you have it in your hands, and in my case, again, I'm a thumber, so I will have my fingers here on between the switches. They sit pretty nicely. You have access to the switches comfortable and quickly, and the shape or the way that you hold it, even if you are a pincher, allows you to have the other fingers here too, and access the switches also very comfortable. Something very cool that Radiomaster is doing is that they are shipping their radios with HTX instead of OpenTX. The radio supports directly out of the box HTX, and we know that that's something that is changing right now, where HTX is being developed much more than OpenTX, and therefore it's good that radios are coming directly with that software. We have support for that software, and we are making sure that the support continues in the future because we have the most current software for the radios. The fact that it's running HTX also means that it's a breeze to configure. If you're used to a TX16 or a jumper, all of them are using OpenTX/HTX, and then you are familiarized with the way of configuring, adding new models, and doing everything that you want directly from the software. This radio, as I mentioned, has ExpressLRS integrated, 250 milliwatts, which even though a lot of people is complaining that it's not 1 watt and that you need more power, 250 milliwatts is pretty much when we're talking about ExpressLRS. The only thing that I'm going to tell you is that remember, when you are updating your ExpressLRS software, you have to choose the right parameters when you are compiling the information. If you are on Europe and you choose the European region, you might be locked to 10 milliwatts, and that's going to make a huge difference. If you are locked down into 10 milliwatts, the system range is going to be much lower than if you are up to the 250. But that's something that you can change on the software. Just choose the right parameters when you are burning or compiling the new software. And talking about compiling, again, ExpressLRS has different ways to do this and update your software and include your passphrase, and that's something that I love from ExpressLRS. I took this radio, connected it to the Wi-Fi at my home, and then I can just upload the image that I created with my passphrase, and I didn't have to rebind all my drones to the radios. I just remap my sticks so they were similar to my TX16S. I compiled the new software with the passphrase, and now my radio works with all my drones. That's only possible with ExpressLRS, and that's something that I love from that technology. Now to the points that I'm not that crazy about this radio. Number one is the switches. These switches are pretty small. And yeah, even if you are holding it like this and you have them like next to your fingers and like it's not difficult to find them, it's still like it covers just half of my finger, and it feels like I'm gonna miss it. If I'm having my goggles on, to be honest, you're not gonna miss it, but it still feels a little bit weird. If you think about the Jumper T-Lite, which is also a small compact radio, the switches are much bigger and they sit better. They cover kind of like your whole finger, and you feel more comfortable moving them than the Zorro. But it's not a huge deal. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something uncomfortable for me. Number 3 is the most important bad thing about this radio, and it's the battery life and battery selection in general. Radiomaster did something unconventional, went with the smaller battery, the 13650, which is smaller than the 18650, which we are used to find on different radios like the TX16S and the T Pro and even the T-Lite. Of course, most probably they took this decision in order to keep the radio compact, but that is influencing the time that the radio can work. With the Express LRS at 250, which is the maximum of the radio, and most probably the one that you're going to be choosing, it's only 1.5 hours for the time that you can use the radio. This means that either if you didn't remember to fully charge your radio and you're going out and you're in the field, there is a chance that you have to recharge your radio in the field. That's nothing that is something to be proud of. Radiomaster added an option, and you have an external port to connect a 2S battery on the bottom of the radio. They even have these small ears where you can have straps, and you can strap the radio in the battery in there. It's a good option. You're going to extend the battery life, but you're changing the entire shape of the radio by having a battery hanging on the bottom, or people is doing 3D printed parts to attach there and be able to have two 18650, but then you're changing the whole radio, and it's like it's becoming this bulky big thing there because you're adding a 3D printed part. It's like you're breaking the whole concept of the radio when you do that. There is another option. You can have a cable, a long cable that Radiomaster is selling, and most probably you can do one yourself. And then you can have your 2S battery in your pocket and connect it to the bottom of the radio. But again, it's like you're gonna be flying with this cable here. You have the cable of the goggle. It's going to be too many cables, which I feel that it's just a bad design for the batteries. I'm sorry, Radiomaster. And one more thing about the battery. They're not easy to find. When I got the radio, I went out to some of my regular shops to get some of these ones, and everyone that says that they sell this battery, no one had them in stock. So I had to order them from Amazon, wait 3, 4, 5 days or whatever it was until I could start using my shiny new toy. That's a little bit of a pain. I guess that will depend where in the world you are and what kind of shops you have. And as a shop owner, that means that I'm going to have to stock these small batteries if I want to give my customers the best service. And again, it's something that as a shop owner, I don't like that much, because this battery is only used for this radio, and now I'm going to have a lot of stock in the shop for something that is just one item. That's not a big deal, but it's nothing either that I'm looking forward to. Again, not a good choice, Radiomaster. But in general, I actually like quite a lot this radio. It sits very well in your hands, it's comfortable. The weight that it has make it feel a little bit more premium. The finish, it's nice. You have a lot of buttons that you can use to program everything that you have. The screen, it's bigger than those other small radios, which means that you see better the things that you are programming, and it's still compact enough to make a difference between the TX16S or any similar radio and this one. So if I wasn't so used to my TX16S, I might see myself changing to something like this as my primary radio. I invite you to get one, check it out, have it maybe as a second radio, or maybe it can become easily your main radio as well. Thank you for watching and see you soon.